Welcome to NBA Stories, the place where we dive deep into the legends behind the game. Today, we are talking about Allen Iverson. Not just a Hall of Famer, not just a scoring machine, but a street-style icon who changed how the NBA looks, feels, and moves. Before the tattoos, braids, and baggy shorts became mainstream, Iverson was already living that culture. He did not invent street style, but he brought it straight from the playgrounds and neighborhoods of America to the brightest stage in basketball. He did it unapologetically. Allen Iverson grew up in struggle, and you can see that story in the way he dressed, walked, and played. His style was not a costume. It was a reflection of where he came from and who he was. Every oversized t-shirt, every chain, every pair of baggy jeans was a statement. It was a way of saying, "I'm from the streets," and I'm not hiding it just because I'm in the NBA in the 1,990 seconds in early 2000s, the NBA was still trying to present a very clean and corporate image. Suits, polished interviews, and neutral personalities were the norm. Then Iverson arrived with cornrows, tattoos everywhere, and an attitude that looked more like a rap video than a corporate commercial. To some people, it was uncomfortable. To a lot of young fans, it was magnetic. Iverson's cornrows alone were a revolution. At a time when most players kept their hair simple and safe, Iverson showed up with braids that were clearly influenced by black urban culture and hip-hop. Every design was sharp, fresh, and intentional. He would change the patterns, get them redone, and step onto the court like a model walking down a runway. Those braids became part of his identity. Then there were the tattoos. Today, heavily tattooed NBA stars are normal. Back then, Iverson looked like he came from another world. He had ink everywhere, arms, shoulders, chest, telling stories of faith, struggle, loyalty, and pain. For the league, it was too much. For fans from similar backgrounds, it was the first time they saw someone on that level who actually looked like them. And of course, we cannot talk about Iverson without mentioning the clothes. The baggy jeans, the XXL t-shirts, the throwback jerseys, the heavy chains, bandanas, and fitted caps. He dressed like the streets, because he never left the streets behind. He just brought them with him. This is where the street style icon label becomes real. Iverson did not follow NBA fashion rules. He followed hip-hop culture. He dressed like the rappers he listened to. He dressed like the guys in his neighborhood growing up. He was wearing the culture of the people, not the culture of the boardroom. What made Iverson different from a regular celebrity is that his style was fully connected to his game. His crossover was street ball. His movements were quick, flashy, and disrespectful in the best way. He played like a guy at a summer tournament trying to break ankles in front of a crowd. The clothes, the tattoos, the braids, and the way he played were one complete package. Iverson's aesthetic and his game were perfectly aligned. When you watched Iverson walk through the tunnel, it felt like a music video. When you watched him on the court, it felt like a battle on the blacktop. He was not just dressing differently. He was changing the mood of the league. He was turning NBA arenas into a stage for street culture. This created tension with the NBA. In the mid-2000s, the league introduced a dress code that clearly reacted to players like Iverson. No more baggy jeans, no more oversized shirts, no more chains on the sidelines. Players were expected to wear business casual and suits. In other words, the league wanted to push things back toward a professional image. That moment showed how powerful Iverson's style truly was. If one player's fashion influence is strong enough to make an entire league change its rules, that is not just clothing, that is cultural impact. The dress code was not only about clothes, it was about image, identity, and who gets to decide what professional looks like. Many critics at the time said Iverson's look was thuggish. They used coded language. They weren't just criticizing his style, they were criticizing the culture he represented. But that is exactly why so many young people connected with him. They saw someone who did not tone himself down to make others comfortable. For a kid growing up in the inner city, wearing baggy clothes, and listening to hip-hop, Iverson was proof that you did not have to erase yourself to become successful. You could be great at the highest level and still look like the environment that raised you. That message was way bigger than basketball. It said, your authenticity has value. On the court, Iverson's accessories became part of the visual language of basketball. The arm sleeve, for example, started as a functional tool after an elbow injury. But with Iverson, it became fashion. He made the single arm sleeve iconic. Today, players wear sleeves, headbands, and compression gear as part of their style. A lot of that started with Iverson. Then there are the sneakers. Iverson's partnership with Reebok gave birth to some of the most recognizable basketball shoes of that era. The Reebok question and answer lines were bold, flashy, and unique, just like him. Red and blue toe caps, icy soles, strong branding. Those shoes were not just for hoopers. They were lifestyle sneakers. People wore them to the court, to school, to parties. In the sneaker world, Michael Jordan defined the standard for classic, elegant basketball shoes. Iverson represented something different. He represented edge, attitude, and risk. His shoes were for kids who saw themselves in the streets more than in the suburbs. They were for kids who saw basketball and hip-hop as part of the same culture. If you look at today's NBA, you can see Iverson's fingerprints everywhere. Players walk into arenas in outfits that look like runway looks or streetwear campaigns, chains, designer hoodies, fitted caps, sneakers that are more fashion than performance. They express themselves freely. They control their own brand image. The league now posts tunnel walk photos like they are fashion shoots. What used to be criticized as unprofessional is now marketed as player style and tunnel fits. It is almost ironic. The same league that once tried to regulate street style now uses it to promote the game. And Iverson was one of the main reasons that evolution happened. We also need to talk about the deeper meaning behind his style. For Iverson, it was not only about looking cool, it was about survival, loyalty, and history. The chains represented success that he never thought he would see. The tattoos represented pain and belief. The braids represented Black identity and culture. Everything he wore was tied to something real in his life. There is a powerful emotional layer to Iverson's story. Think about the millions of kids who watched him rise from poverty, from legal trouble, from doubt and criticism. They saw a small guard, barely 6 feet tall, covered in tattoos, speaking with raw honesty, dominating giants, and silencing arenas. They saw someone who looked like them, talked like them, and dressed like them. For those kids, Iverson was not just a basketball player. He was proof that their world mattered. He carried their style, their sound, and their struggle into living rooms around the world. He showed that the street is not something to be ashamed of. It is something that can produce greatness. From an analytical standpoint, Iverson represents a turning point in how we think about image and branding in sports. Before teams and leagues controlled the narrative, they created the image of players. They told them how to dress, how to speak, what to show, and what to hide. Iverson flipped that. He was his own brand. Brands did not shape Iverson. Iverson shaped brands. Reebok, rap artists, and even the NBA itself had to respond to him. They had to adjust to the energy he brought. He was ahead of his time in understanding that being authentic is more powerful than being polished. Yes, there were consequences. He was criticized more than other stars. Media attacked his image. People questioned his professionalism. He made mistakes like any human, but even his flaws were part of why people connected with him. He felt human, not robotic. Today, stars like Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and many others use fashion as a creative canvas. They wear what they want. They take risks. They mix luxury with streetwear. Whether they know it or not, they are walking through the door Iverson kicked open. When we call Allen Iverson a street-style icon, we are not just talking about clothes. We are talking about resistance. We are talking about identity. We are talking about the right to bring your full self into a space that was not built for you. Iverson never became the perfect corporate star. He was never going to be the guy smiling politely in every commercial and saying exactly what PR teams wrote down. He was raw, he was emotional, he was vulnerable. He wore his heart and his history on his sleeve. And that emotional truth is why people still love him. You can feel his authenticity when you watch old clips, see old photos, or hear him talk. He wasn't pretending. He wasn't switching masks depending on the room. He was Allen Iverson, whether he was in a press conference, a club, or Game 7. In the bigger picture of NBA history, Iverson's impact goes beyond stats and awards. He expanded what it means to be an NBA superstar. You did not have to fit into the traditional image anymore. You could come from the street, bring that street with you, and still become a global icon. He forced the league, the media, and the fans to confront their biases about what a professional athlete should look like. He made conversations about race, class, and culture impossible to avoid. Even when people tried to reduce him to a stereotype, his game and influence were too big to ignore. In the end, Allen Iverson's legacy as a street-style icon is inseparable from his legacy as a player. He did not just cross over defenders, he crossed over cultural boundaries. He broke the ankles of expectations. He made the NBA a place where the street could be seen, heard, and respected. So when you see a player walking into the arena in bold fashion, when you see tattoos, braids, chains, or expressive fits, remember where that line started. It goes back to number 3 inches, Philadelphia. To the kid from Hampton who refused to change who he was, to Allen Iverson, the answer, the icon of street style in the NBA. Thank you for watching this episode of NBA Stories. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Allen Iverson and his impact on street style and basketball culture, please like the video, share it with other hoop fans, leave a comment with your favorite Iverson moment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next story.